I really want to uncover some of your stories. Um, I'm always keen to hear any recollections. I want to hear if there's, falling off a ladder in the middle of the night or getting caught and busted. Have you got any times going back that stick out in your memories?
Oh my God! One probably 95 or 6. I was painting South London on the sort of train tracks with a friend of mine, and we saw torches coming down the train tracks. I don't think it was for us. I think it was people, workers working or something, and I don't think they saw us. But we ran and kind of ran down to the bank, thinking that we could like get out that way. And I lost my friend, and I didn't see where he went. And I walked down this bank, and I sank into these brambles, probably into like, I don't know, like 2 meters of brambles. I was completely engulfed in brambles. And I started moving, and then I heard the workers right in front of me, and they were working right in front of me. And I fell asleep and woke up, probably, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning or something, I don't know. And I managed to get out, climbed over this short fence, and it was so foggy I couldn't see literally 5 meters in front of my face. I was walking with my hands out, like trying not to bump into anything. And I eventually realized I was in the grounds of a school. So I had to climb out of the school and then walk back to my car or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there are numerous stupidity things that I was doing when I was young.
Did you ever get caught?
Not doing it. Not in the action.
Fleeing the scene.
Yeah, never caught in the act, as they say. Never get caught in the act.
What advice would you give if you could go back and speak to a young you, an 18-year-old you? Say, what advice would you go back and give?
That's really interesting. What advice? Probably the only advice I would give to myself is don't eat so many sweets. And then your teeth won't be as bad as they are. You won't have to have fillings and stuff. That would be the advice I give to my younger self.
What's the best advice you were given?
The best advice I've ever been given is, again, by my friend Stormy Mills. And he said, when you're at an opening of your own work, don't get pissed, don't get drunk. Just walk around with a beer in your hand, let it go warm, and just hold it. Don't have to drink it, just hold it all night. And if someone says, do you want a beer? You just go, I've got one, thanks. And that way you won't get drunk and you won't make a tit of yourself. That's one of the best bits of advice anyone's ever given me.
You mentioned it's a lovely story about your granddad, and you mentioned a bit of education. What did your art teachers think of you? Do you know?
My GCSE art teacher told me I would never amount to anything. His exact words. So you will never amount to anything. And the reason he told me that is because from my GCSE art exam, I did a painting with airbrush of Frodo from Lord of the Rings on one side of the river, with the ring wraiths on the other side of the river, and the river kind of crashing down, being turned into horses by Gandalf, the wizard. And I was a big fan of the book and the animated film. Obviously this is a long time before Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. And he was like, this is rubbish, this is terrible. I put so much work and time in it. He said, you'll never do anything. So yeah.
Do you still have it?
Not a lot. I do still have it, yeah. I do.
Will you post it?
No.
Even privately?
Art education is miseducation. And the only way to truly discover art is to go to museums, is to read books, is to engross yourself within art. I would never want to teach art. It's almost an impossible task. All you can do is open up people's minds to art and open up their minds to the possibilities of what they can do, and then let them do it, in my humble opinion.
you've got the afternoon to go to a gallery, and it's the only you can only pick one. Where are you going?
I would probably go to Tate. So I love the building. There's always amazing art there. It's walkable from my house. Yeah, you know, the Gerhard Richters are there. I could stand in front of those for hours. Their permanent collection is incredible. The Blavatnik building itself, without even the art in it, is amazing. And probably end it by getting lost in the bookshop, because I love their bookshop.
As a kid, I used to make my dad drag me up. We used to live down sort of near Gatwick, and I used to make him drag me up during school holidays to go to the Tate. Some random ones. If you weren't an artist, what would you be?
Be a chef.
Ah.
Weirdly, my career path up till I was about 18 was I was going to be a dancer. So I was at dance school till I was 17. And then I was a semi-professional dancer for a year. And then kind of art just kind of took over. And sadly, my need and want for training constantly and hurting my ankles got less and less.
What kind of dance?
All kinds of dance, contemporary, tap, ballet. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not the only one. There's an artist from Germany called Neon. He's a wicked graffiti writer, a friend of mine, Ayosha. He was a ballet dancer, but he was professional. He went full professional for many years. But yeah, that was my life. I was at Talia Conti School for years. Yeah.
Wow.
But then, if someone, what would you do now? And obviously, if I wasn't an artist, I would make food, because I love making food. I love cooking. My mother's Italian, so
it did make me wonder. So the music that you is the Dead Can Rap, is that a sort of its own kind of thing that you just love to do, or was there a kind of those pillars of the graffiti and hip hop, and did you feel that was like an ambition you had to fulfill, or was it just completely disconnected?
No, I've been making music since I was 18. There's a friend of mine called Graham, who's an amazing bass player. Like, he's played bass with, if you look for the list of people he's played with, unbelievable. And I met him in a bar in Covent Garden, and they were just like jamming, and he was like, get up and do some freestyles, and I just did. And I used to muck about with raps and poetry and writing, and I just did some freestyles, and then ended up doing some recording with them. Then I was in another band with a friend of mine called Serpico, and we did a few things with that. Then I had a band called Reptiles, which was me, Juice126, who I mentioned earlier, and another friend was Joseph. And then we were signed to a label called Jazz Fudge, and we started touring, and that was actually pretty professional. So that was kind of through late 90s, early 2000s. And Mike Ladd, who I'm in the Dead Can Rap with, is, if you look him up, he's a legendary musician and poet. His album Welcome to the After Futures and the book 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die, he's critically acclaimed, and he's just one of my best mates, and we've been talking about doing the Dead Can Rap project for years, and we just finally got around to doing it.
It's dark stuff. I find, I don't know whether I'm sort of making it up or whether it's structured that way, but you listen through the album and it seems to get slightly heavier. It's sort of, the way I listen to it, it's sort of a bit sort of massive attacky and more cheevery in the beginning. Then it sort of becomes more sort of Daft Punky, and then it just becomes quite dark at the end. It sounds like towards the end, I think Renaissance is my favorite track. It sounds a bit like Nas and Beastie Boys. There's a couple of tracks they did together, and it sounds really quite sort of foreboding, but I love it.
That's really kind. Thank you. I mean, I don't think we meant to make a dark album. I mean, the album is about, Mike is a very politically attuned individual. I'm a very politically attuned individual. you know, we're both parents, so it's about our journey. You know, like he's 50, I'm almost 50. You know, it's like we're not 21-year-old like want to rap about whatever, you know, girls, you know, going to parties. You know, we have very different lives now, so we're trying to kind of, I guess, elevate those conversations into kind of the songs and the music. And you know, they are about parenting. You know, there's a line that Mike uses which always sticks out to me, like smashing up the iPhones when they use them in the kitchen. And that's hit, you know, like his son Martin was using his iPhone in the kitchen, and he told him, can you stop using your, you know, this is not allowed in here. And he wouldn't, so he took it and he smashed it. You know, and they're the things that parents have to do, and that is dark, but that's also parenting. And every parent's had to kind of tell their kid off at some point. But then there's, you know, there's things about like the iPhone raps. You know, it's all about you know, my daughter liking the same things that I do, and you know, having pancakes and avocado toast at the weekends and stuff. You know, so I don't know if it's that dark.
Not in terms of its lyrics, but in terms of the sound. It's yeah.
But then, you know, we come from, you know, I mean, I love John Carpenter, and I love John Carpenter films and soundtracks. So, you know, I'd kind of take those synth sounds and creating a kind of, you know, montage of sonic dystopian sound, you know. And, you know, even the name, The Dead Can Rap, you know, there's like a whole zombie apocalypse connotation. I don't know if you're into zombie stuff at all, but the logo is actually a take on Romero's Romero's logo from his first zombie movie, Day of the Dead. So
I was going to say, it looks Day of the Dead.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's all kind of encompassed within that. It's, you know, it's also escapism. You know, it's not real. You know, like you can see, I'm in a nice studio. I'm not living in a dystopian dugout in the Arizona desert. You know, But you know, there is darkness. You know, Mike grew up in America. You know, he's had guns pointed at him. You know, I grew up in Thatcherite London. You know, South London in the 80s was you know, it was a dangerous place. So there is an element of darkness within our journey. I guess maybe that comes out.
I wanted to everyone I speak to, I'm trying to create a playlist, because I do think there are certain things, whether they're just sort of, you know, whatever the interest is, there are certain things that people want to know about the artists they follow. And I think one thing is people love to know what kind of music you're into. And I'm trying to create a Spotify playlist for everyone I speak to, so people can come into the Spotify and just see the kind of things they love. And you don't have to obviously run through them now, but I wasn't sure, would I put that album in, or would you at some point be able to like jot down, actually, no, these are the things, if I was in the studio every day and I was listening, these are the 10 things I'll be listening to?
I mean, I don't necessarily listen to my own music all the time. I listen through it. I did listen to it yesterday, just because I hadn't for a while. But you know, I listen to all kinds of stuff, jazz, and you know, I had some great jazz on yesterday. Yeah, kind of just depends. But yeah, I'd happily give you a little track list.
Maybe what I do is on Insta, I'll nudge you, remind you at some point, just to jot down 10 tunes or bands, and I'll pop it together.
Yeah, sure.
One more minute of your time then. Is there anything, you know, I'll edit this together and push this out, say later in the summer. So bearing in mind that kind of timelines, we're probably talking late Q3, Q4. Is there anything you would like to talk about? Anything you would want to promote, or a cause, or something that would be timely to that sort of moment that you'd say, you'd like to talk about this?
Cause-wise, I mean, you know, like the big cause in mine and my wife's life is mental health. We have a company called P-Joys, which is it's a pajama company. Pajamas designed by artists, but maintaining the conversation about mental health and sustainability. So there's no plastic, and you know, the pajamas themselves are made out of organic material, and trying to be as sustainable and as kind to the planet and to people as possible. So within that, you know, we have quite a few mental health charities that we work with, and that are part of our life and our conversation. So I guess that's quite an important thing that I'm part of. And I think mental health is, you know, like, people need to look after their own mental health, and the people around them, they need to look after their mental health as well. But I'm also working on a big coffee table book that at some point is going to be ready. It's like 400 pages. It's going to be massive, and it's going to have everything: graffiti art, graphic design, because there was a whole period of my life where I was just a graphic designer. So there's that nobody knows or seen. You know, the record sleeves I did for people like Stanton Warriors, Killer Keller, loads of stuff. And so yeah, that's in the offing at some point. And then I've got my selected works books, which I'm on like third reprint. I think they're getting another reprint delivered tomorrow. I don't know if you picked that one up at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a nice book. 80 pages of recent work from the past 2 years. It's quite cool, because then you're like, oh Christ, I've done quite a lot of stuff in the last 2 years.
I was going to say, just talking to you and listening to all the stuff you've done, how do you fit everything in?
I have no idea. Some of the music, I'm up till like 3 a.m. working on music sometimes, because things have to get finished and sent to my friend Jerome for mixing and mastering. And so I'm like, oh my God, it's 3 a.m. I'm still sitting here hammering out a drum pan. But mostly I try and, 9 to 5 it. The whole whiskey campaign's been pretty hardcore. So yeah, we're up early and bed late working on that at the moment. But then that will launch, and then a bit quiet time. So there's always time. There's always time to do cool stuff.
Yeah. You've been a superstar, and you've given me so much of your time.
No, absolute pleasure, Tom.